Chapter 7 Queens at Durga Puja. As I told you earlier, there was still someone who had been ailing with grave envy, jealousy, hatred, and grievances, who was always looking for just one chance to subdue her burning senses, and who could perhaps cross the boundaries of womanly dignity and integrity to spin out her own ill wills. And she was Queen Prabhavati. Rudra could deduce a clear guess as he barged in frenetically on Vishnu Karma's recitation. Yes, she is their own family member, the highest of the three queens, but the meanest of all. In the month of Ashwin, in the legendary Mahalya temple, a multi-day festival of Durga Puja Mahotsav is organized every year, and Queen Prabhavati visited the temple every year to offer family rites and extend an eminent contribution to the temple on behalf of the entire family. Likewise, that year too, she reached the Mahalya temple and was lavishly executing her traditional rituals. As she got over with all her customary ceremonies, she stood up to offer the food and donation to the people who had gathered around. While doing this charity, she noticed a familiar face standing right by her side at a distance on a higher platform, praying to the goddess with joined hands and closed eyes. By the deep indentation upon her round bulging cheek, she straightaway recognized the lady. She was Queen Balakrishna from our very own kingdom of Surishila, who was once a very good friend of Queen Prabhavati. Prabhavati went near Balakrishna and gently placed her hand on her shoulders. Astounded, Balakrishna looked back to notice that who had dared to touch a queen that way. To her immense surprise, she found her old and dearest friend Prabhavati standing behind, whom she had recognized instantly. They both smiled alluringly and hugged each other warmly. The two friends sat under a huge peepal tree in the pure premises of the temple. They talked, giggled, and hugged each other over again and again as they would burst in laughter, perhaps about the memories of their olden times. Then they staggered to discuss about their well-beings, realms, and families. When their discussion debarked on the concern about their children, both the ladies seemed to stumble upon talking about the same. Prabhavati's impediment about being the mother of two girls were comprehensive, but Balakrishna's hindrance was implausible, as she was not only the mother of a son, but the only heir of the kingdom of Surishila. What is the matter with you, my dear friend? You can share anything with me that makes you so uncomfortable. I am sure to try my best to resolve any issues with you, said Prabhavati to Balakrishna, and she truly sounded a sincere friend. Balakrishna impetuously burst into tears of lamentation, deeply confided in Prabhavati, as if she had been waiting for long to vent out her feelings to someone really trustworthy and dependable. I do have a lovely son, my friend, but I am worried. Balakrishna sobbed more as she uttered few words. Worried for? Asked Prabhavati. Everyone knows that my son was the greatest spark in the history of the princes from Urdhvaga dynasty. He was the real charm and hope of our lives. But God knows which evil eye devoured his charm and left my son crippled with epileptic fits ever since he turned 3, which has shriveled his confidence as well as to face or talk to anyone. We have tried everything possible to cure him, but in vain. The great sages of Surishila say that his stars have been under the evil aura of Kal Sarpadosh, for which we have executed all the necessary rituals, customs, and offerings by the bank of the purest Ganga. Chanting of Mahamrutyunjay mantra never comes to a halt in the temple of Lord Shiva in Surishila, and every year during Durga Puja, I come with hopes to beg from Ma Durga that someday she would hear my prayers. They say only winning the grace of Lord Shiva can alleviate his sufferings, which sure will bestow someday over the land of Surishila in some of his gracious form. Vishnukarma pauses and looks at the pendant hanging in Rudra's neck and then into his eyes, then continues. Queen Balakrishna was emotionally totally devastated. She further unfurled her heartfelt desire to her friend Prabhavati. All my poor child can pour his heart to someone is me. But Lord Krishna knows how much I hope for a substitute, who would always be by his side in all the times, good or bad, how much I await the moment of his marriage, which itself is an inconceivable expectation at this vulnerable stage. However sympathetic to Balakrishna's poor plight, but sightless with pride of her royalty, Prabhavati replied in a conceited tone, Your son is the eminent ruler of Surashila. Which girl would mind such obscure illness as a reason for not getting married to a prince? But I don't wish for any ordinary girl for him. She should at least be an elegant princess of some prominent kingdom. Balakrishna fretted in central demand in consideration for the future of her kingdom. Balakrishna's words put Prabhavati's mind into a web string of influential thoughts. She thought for a while as if weaving a plan within her cunning brain, not only to help her friend, but hauling this moment as irretrievable opportunity for her own mean retribution, and then said to Balakrishna, I know where your search for a perfect bride ends, my friend. An unconditional friendship often lands in a perfect relationship, and there you are. Balakrishna kept listening to her with an immense wreck of mental pinch, but, unable to grasp what Prabhavati exactly meant to say, asked her to explain it further clearly. Prabhavati began to unfold her plan and informed Balakrishna about Madhavi, her grace and beauty. She is like a beautiful flower, bespeckled with dew in the thin light of dawn, with the spotless, fairest face you must have never seen. She isn't just flawless in her bone structure, her skin is like silk over glass, and it radiates an intelligent beauty. Whosoever sees it feels the irresistible impulse to smile and adore her with a true offer their admiration for her intact combination of beauty with brain. Prabhavati did not seem to falter in her description for Madhavi's esteem. Perhaps this could help her better to procure Balakrishna's absolute faith. Balakrishna raised her doubts, but why a girl of such abundance of grace and beauty would listen to her stepmother? She floundered in utter disbelief. Or anyone else for that matter, to marry a boy not even half of her grace? She would have to, replied Prabhavati with a simper on her wide fair face. But why? Asked Balakrishna. Because the beauty stays as long as you are young and brisk. It has been a challenge so far for the king to find a perfect suitor for her. Some princes have been shrewdly repudiated by Madhavi, and some of them just could not stand her audacity, even though she is extremely beautiful. King has aggressively been looking for the one who would voluntarily like to accept his daughter the way she is. And that's what can offer you a fair chance to accomplish your dream, but only if you listen to me. Prabhavati sneakily tried to convince Balakrishna, I am not less than a real mother to this girl, the exceptionally distinguished princess of Satvahana, and she is as much dear to me as she is to her own mother. And today, again, I only think good for her future, and for her to become the future queen of such a great dynasty. Hence, I propose to you to have her married with your prince Rohan. Balakrishna, extremely swayed by Prabhavati's words, consented to her proposal. She, in fact, felt quite relieved in the hope for something optimistically impending after so many years. Finally, Ma Durga has heard my prayers, having sent you as her messenger. I am indebted to her and you forever from this day on. In all these transactions, Prabhavati also convinced Balakrishna for later disclosure of Rohan's problems to Madhavi, which perhaps would not require once they are married, as was predicted, and so had they anticipated minimally, without any further consideration. Then they both returned to their respective kingdoms. On reaching the Satvahana palace, Prabhavati sent for a message to King Baldeva to meet her urgently. When Baldeva went to meet her in her private suite, she showed best of her gratitude to King in order to create the perfect setting for her intrigue plan. She told Baldeva about Durga Mahotsav and her pleasant meeting with her old friend Queen Balakrishna from the kingdom of Surishila. And further to all her elaborate account, she told him about Prince Rohan, where she also added superficial good opinion and admiration for the prince. You should have witnessed the royal esteem of the prince yourself. Beyond any doubt, he is the perfect match for our dear Madhavi. Prabhavati presented her proposal without any further delay. Baldeva was little befuddled at this unexpected overture, but somehow he was also glad to see Prabhavati's earnest concern for his beloved daughter. After pondering over the offer of Prabhavati for a while, he asked her to arrange to send for a proper proposal to King Vajraveer and Queen Balakrishna for their son's marriage with their daughter Madhavi, and also arrange for a formal meeting with the royalty to see Prince Rohan. Prabhavati slackened the grip of her funk to raise a bid, all after speculating to have executed the entire plot to confirm the relation with Surishila, except for the later requisition from Baldeva to meet the prince before marriage. She by no chance wanted Prince's verity of sickness to be revealed before his marriage with Madhavi. Prabhavati's interest in arranging Madhavi's marriage even pleased Queen Surimukhi and Queen Gayatri to a great extent. They altogether prepared a grand invitation for the kingdom of Surishila. Meanwhile, while all the preparations was taking place, Prabhavati conjured the chief messenger to hand over her message written in a scroll along with a small packet to Queen Balakrishna. King Vajraveer was overjoyed to receive voluntary proposal from such a wealthy and prominent kingdom for his only son. What he had thought of hard to perceive. He had also learned from Balakrishna about her friendship with Prabhavati. When Balakrishna and Vajraveer were rejoicing the incalculable moments, Balakrishna got the message from an attendant to see the chief messenger in personal. Balakrishna received the scroll from the messenger and read it. She was first a little apprehensive while reading the message, but as she completed reading it, heaved a sigh of relief. The last line said, "The dose should be inhaled once in a whole day, and it will work wonders." She too sent a written scroll back, but not for Prabhavati, instead for King Baldeva, along with an attractive portrait of Prince Rohan. Baldeva received the message written from King Vajraveer about marriage to take place at the earliest, as predicted by his wise astrologers, in the same month, on the 10th day of the bright fortnight of the moon, and also to convey that Prince really likes Madhavi as his bride-to-be. Baldeva opened the second scroll and saw the portrait of Prince. It was more like a live image of the prince. He looked handsome and charming. Baldeva, as wielded by the atrocity of destiny, didn't give any second thought and ordered for the royal marriage of Madhavi with Prince Rohan, as pronounced by Vajraveer according to his letter. Baldeva and Surumukhi went to meet Madhavi in her room. They blessed her for her future. Out of due respect for her father, Madhavi did not raise any questions to him, but she could always talk candidly with her dear mother Surimukhi. Madhavi asked Surumukhi for the reason behind their speedy judgment about her marriage with a prince they had never even met. "Dear mother, nothing on this earth can dare to question my faith in you and my father. But what made you unite this bond with a family not even known to us at all?" "My dear daughter, the family is not other than the clan of great Urdhvaga dynasty. The prestige of their kingdom of Surishila is spread in all the spheres of the earth. And most importantly, Prince Rosan is the only heir of their kingdom. That assures you to become the queen beyond any doubt. And who says they are unknown? The mother of the prince, Queen Balakrishna, is sisters Prabhavati's childhood friend, who herself has initiated this proposal." Surumukhi paused in delight for a while, looked at the bright face of Madhavi in adoration, softly touching her cheek, and continued, "We can ask for no more for you, my child. I desperately wait for the moment to see you sitting in a flowery bridal palanquin." Surumukhi's thorough alluring speech did not leave any scope for Madhavi to speak or ask any further, and she silently consented to the will of her parents. Grand preparations started in the palace with extensive ceremonies loaded with the typical rites and rituals, and soon arrived the wedding day. Right from the crack of dawn, various rituals were performed on both the sides of the bride and the groom in their own palaces. Their bodies were anointed with turmeric, sandalwood paste, and aromatic oils. They were then bathed with pure milk and clean water to the chanting of Vedic mantras. Prince was dressed in the best of royal robes by his mother and the helpers, and Madhavi, the royal bride, wore all her finery helped by her womenfolk. King Vajraveer, Queen Balakrishna, and a vast procession for marriage with all its splendor and sovereignty arrived at the kingdom of Satvahana. Along with their extravagant and grand welcome, the most significant ceremonies and rituals began. The only surprising thing for the people was the presence of Queen Balakrishna, that too always by her son's side like an inextricable shadow, as it was not considered auspicious for the mother to travel in their son's wedding procession. But Prabhavati's shabby deception was once again at its utmost. She declared that it was the best opportunity for her to let her friend Balakrishna meet her entire family. A wedding altar, mandap, was pillared in the jasmine garden of the palace. Its frames were draping with strands of sweet-scented marigold, rose and jasmine flowers, inside which the solemn rituals were conducted by the priest to the chanting of sacrosanct mantras. The sacred fire was lit, rites were performed, and the couple was blessed by all the dignitaries present there. The entire ambience seemed so bright and colorful that it had bedazzled every spirit in its chanting wave. From gifting the bride to the gods first, and then with gods as a witness to the bridegroom till the marriage vows, fastening ordained thread as the mark of the marriage bond, stargazing and receiving blessings, all rituals flew well, and all rejoiced these moments merrily. Madhavi sat in a flowery palanquin as was fancied by her mother, and left with the returning procession her husband and his family for her noble home with tears of farewell from her loved ones.